Good morning everyone. Thank you very much for your attention yesterday, and you have just explained to me that how and what you have taken away from yesterday's lectures. Yesterday we looked at the supply demand balance through supply chain principles. We learned that the competitive strategy and the supply chain strategy must develop a synergy, and if there is no synergy, there would be lack of strategic fit, and we need to really work towards bridging that gap, okay, through project, through improvement measures, so that we can really achieve that supply demand synergy and we continue with the business. But we need to really keep in mind the environmental aspect alongside. Okay, we have seen competitive strategies are related to product specification and the customer's requirement. Okay, alongside, if we add the policy requirement and the customer's requirement specific to the environmental aspects or the social aspect, then and our own requirement, that means companies who are really producing the product, their requirement could really help us to get the right implied demand uncertainties, okay, in the demand side. And then if you look into the supply chain strategy in the responsiveness efficiency spectrum, then you try to really analyze the match and you get the perfect fit. Okay. Today we would be looking into in a very specifically sustainability part within the supply chain. Okay, supply chain sustainability performance management, okay, within small and medium sized enterprises, and we discussed the definition of the small and medium sized enterprises, and we learned that it varies from country to country. Okay, in the UK it is quite specified, 250 less than 250 people, okay, and it is around 50 million euros, sometimes it's a 50 million pound, less than 50 million pound turnover. Okay. In India, I have looked into Google, somewhere it said 250, somewhere it said 500, less than 500 people, called small and medium sized enterprises, and there is a bit of consensus on the turnover part of it. It's around 10 crores somewhere. Okay, I'm not very sure. You can have a look at the internet to find out what is the right definition of small and medium sized enterprises for the in Indian context. Okay, I would strongly suggest to look at the internet to find out this. Okay, but we are not really trying to do a very stringent classification, okay, of small medium companies, but we need to we are looking into that they are not the original equipment manufacturer in many cases. They are not a big retailer. Okay, they are not public sector unit for sure. Okay, so they are in the different tier, that is small and medium sized enterprises. Okay, we would be looking into the we have understood the supply chain part of it, which comprises of the demand side and supply side as well as the internal operation side, entire aspect of the business and in different tier. And what is sustainability? Sustainability is the combination of the three aspects, okay, environmental, social as well as the economical part of it. Okay, it's the right balance between these three aspects, so as to really achieve the sustainability. So what we are trying to really understand here, that could we develop a sustainability performance measurement framework, okay, and use that framework to analyze a particular business, okay, in various stages, while you are starting a business, while you are operating a business, and even while you are planning to really conclude the business. Okay, so every aspect of it, and could we really understand where the company is in terms of its sustainability. That means you can well see today sustainability is everything of the business. So you are doing a business which is really good for the society, good for you, good for everybody, and which everybody wants. Okay, so we in one hand we need to really come out with a performance measurement framework which will enable us to measure the performance and will be able to tell us that means for improvement. Okay, So, let me begin with a few statistics. And yesterday we learned that small and medium sized enterprises contributes a lot to any in any economy, developed or emerging. Okay, huge contribution to the GDP. There are countries where small and medium sized enterprises are contributing more than 50% to the GDP. Okay, and any country at least more than 20% is being contributed by small and medium sized enterprises. So it says that 90% of the business happens through small and medium sized enterprises, okay, across the world. 50 to 60% of the world population work in SMEs. Okay, let's look into some figure from the European countries to start with. Okay, in the UK there are 5.7 million SMEs. Okay, very current figure, 5.7 million, and 1/4 of the population, 15.8 million people, work in the SME. Okay, in France, 3.1 million SMEs. Okay, 99.8% of the business, SMEs business. So, well, you could see that it's a huge contribution. Okay, if you look into Indian figure, again the number is a bit confusing. Somewhere I have seen 43 million, somewhere I have seen 48 million. I picked up that 48 million. Okay, and depend on which year we are talking about, and there are 48 million SMEs in India today. Okay, and around 40% of the workforce, Indian workforce, work in SMEs, which is close to 110 million people. Okay, and it contributes currently close to 20%, and the target is 22% by 2020. Okay, so and SMEs contribute more than 45% of the India's industrial output, 40% of the country's total exports, create 1.3 million jobs everywhere. So SME sustainability is very, very important. Okay, I have worked in, other than UK and France, I have worked in a couple of Southeast Asian country, and there are a few statistics from there as well. Thailand, as for example. Okay, yesterday I have told you that we are a bit behind of both Thailand and China in terms of our manufacturing output, okay, and manufacturing contribution to the GDP. Okay, Thailand contributes close to 35% of their GDP by the small and by the manufacturing company, and there are numerous small and medium sized enterprises. And in Thailand you can well see that close to 30% of the total export and 32% of the total import is being contributed. Okay, 80% of the workforce, Thai workforce, work in SMEs. Okay, you have to really keep in mind Thailand has a loads of good connections, okay, collaboration with Japan and China, okay, Asian manufacturing giants. So they have long supply chain in Thailand. Okay, labor cost is low, so both Japan and China have strong supply chain, manufacturing supply chain in Thailand. Similarly, Vietnam is coming up in a very big way. Okay, you can well see that contributes 40% to the GDP, small and medium sized enterprises, and a small country, Laos. Okay, so 97% SMEs. Okay, so they are coming up, and I happen to work with them sometimes, and I picked up all these statistics. Now from that we can see that there is no synergy between what type of economy they are emerging economy or developed economy. Okay, there is no synergy that GDP contribution, number of GDP, number of people work in a specific country. Okay, but one synergy you could well see that the SMEs contribute a lot for the GDP. Many people, they employ many people. So we require to really work towards sustainability of small and medium sized enterprises. If we cannot keep them sustainable, okay, then things will go other way around. So, I will quickly give you another statistics from the UK. Every year around 2000 companies get closed in UK within small and medium sized enterprise sector. Okay, although there is a startup 3000 startup, but it's a very alarming figure. Okay, why 2000 companies get closed? Okay, through my research I would be able to really give you some reason for that. Okay, as we proceed. So, let us look into these are the positive things. One of the negative things I told, okay, that is the thing happening. Okay. So, the negative thing is here, it says that all across the world through research again 70% of global pollution is being contributed by small and medium sized enterprises. Okay. And in manufacturing sector it is 64%. Okay. But most alarming bit is only 0.4% of these SMEs complies with an environmental management system. Okay. So, it is quite alarming things. So, SMEs in the first year they are still okay, because OEM, retailer and big public sectors, they have legislation to submit sustainability report. But and they say that sustainability reporting should be done including the supply chain. That means they are also submitting the carbon footprint measures or current carbon footprint of their suppliers. Okay, all their suppliers needs to be having ISO 14000 certification. Okay, but not beyond that. But you can see that supply chain is quite long, supply network is quite complex, and they are a different tier. And so, we do not know whether the second tier, third tier, fourth tier suppliers are really having some regulations, okay, some environmental management system, unless they are economically viable to them. Okay. So, this is important part of it. So, in the Asia Pacific region 50% of the pollution incident is caused by small and medium sized enterprises. In the UK 8 out of 10 pollution incident is created by the small and medium sized enterprises as per environmental agencies report. And an interesting fact, the last point, okay, 13% of the energy consumptions of world energy consumption is by small and medium sized enterprises. Okay. And there are 30% scope of reducing it. So, in one hand we need to really look into how could we reduce the energy consumption of small and medium sized enterprises. So, if we look at that how we can really make the small and medium sized enterprises sustainable. So, if we look into only environmental part of it, we can a single factor energy consumption, if we concentrate on that, we can really achieve a lot. Okay. So, energy efficiency measure is one of the way we could really resolve SMEs sustainability issues, and the another way that what sort of energy they are consuming. Could we really move from the fossil fuel to the renewable sources? That is also another aspect to really look at. And other than that, waste, okay, and the resource efficiency part of it. So, if you look at that eco design concept, then recycling the product, because what happened, SMEs have a bit of required to really cut corner everywhere, what I mean to say. Okay, because they have to really emphasize on the economy part of it, and they have a very little control on their supply chain. Okay, sometimes they say that okay, our customers will give us the specification. We do not have any scope to change the specification. We do not have any scope to change the manufacturing process, because they have given us and we have to really adhere to that. So, customers has a really good role to really drive SMEs. But SMEs need to really work together also. They cannot really wash their hands saying that okay, we do not have anything to really do it. Okay. So, competition is the major issue. They have a cutthroat competition. there is no long term relationship with the customers. Okay. So, customers will go to another supplier if they are not really economically competitive. So, government needs to really regulate that as well. Okay. So, there is a role of all the stakeholders. So, yesterday we looked at that we need to really understand the supply chain. If we are looking the problem from outside this, we are not part of the supply chain. Say we are academic or we are consultant, we are analyzing the thing. So, what sort of tool we would be using to understand it? Okay. So, that is the overall context that where we are trying to really look at, and we need to really address that by understanding what is going on, by understanding the supply chain, okay, by understanding that the stakeholders requirements, okay, stakeholders objective, and unifying their goal. That is the objective we need to really bring in order to really get the solution. Okay. So, that is the thing we would try to really learn today, that how do we do that. Okay. We have undertaken many research, and overarching research, overarching objective of this research is to make SMEs business sustainable. Okay. And we try to develop a framework to analyze their supply chain and bring solution. Okay. So, and we try to really train the people within the supply chain to use that tool. So, mathematical modeling, qualitative techniques, and statistical approach, okay, conceptually understanding it, solving the problem by brainstorming with the real people which work. That is a practical problem, practical solution we try to really thought of. So, I will now explain that type of research we have undertaken and type of intervention we have made with the society, with the small and medium sized companies. Okay. So, you can stop me anywhere and ask question if you have any doubt. Okay. So, the first methodology that we have adopted in order to understand the characteristics of the SME supply chain. We discussed about characteristics of supply chain yesterday. You all worked in 3 groups, okay, picking up a real company and understanding their supply chain. So, we try to really understand that what motivates small and medium sized enterprise to be environment and social friendly. Okay. What are the motivating factors? We try to really understand that what sort of environmental target they keep. We try to really understand that what sort of technique, method, certification they adopt in order to be environment friendly, social friendly, okay, alongside keeping their productivity up, so addressing the economic issues as well. Okay. We try to really look at whether it varies across the countries, geographic location. Okay. Does it vary with the size? Okay, turnover, size in terms of the employees, size in terms of the turnover, and does it vary with the geographical locations, type of industry. Okay, that sort of things you can well see now. Think of mathematical modeling, statistical modeling. Okay, correlation, factor analysis, analysis of variance, okay, descriptive statistics and that. So, exactly we applied that. Okay. So, the second strand of research is on developing a framework, okay, identifying the factor which are very, very critical, understanding the characteristics of the supply chain, issues and challenges, and then finding out the factors that we will be considering to measure their sustainability performance across the supply chain. Okay. Then use that model and measure that where they are, and then from that finding out the solution and understanding the business case for the solution, because all the solution needs capital, we discussed yesterday. Okay. So, this capital should be available, somebody needs to really give loan or some sort of facilitation, so that it could be really adopted, it could be operated. Okay. Lack of capital, lack of cash flow is one of the major issues of small and medium sized enterprises. Okay. Outrightly, if you tell them to be environment friendly, by say implementing, changing all the older equipment, or replacing the facility, locating their facility elsewhere, things will not work. So, if we say that there would be no manufacturing in say city area to make a cleaner zone, that may not be possible, okay, unless you give them the alternative site, and which is equally good or better for doing their business, and government helps them to promote it. So, that is the thing I am talking about. So, we need to really be very, very pragmatic on that part of it. So, we looked into that. We picked up factors, okay, from the literature. I am talking more, if I give, I make this presentation to the industry people, perhaps I will not use those, but because you are all the researchers, I am saying these. So, we looked into literature and found those criteria is being looked at mostly, and then we try to really do the primary research in a big sample of companies in India as well as in the UK, and try to really understand the comparative bit of it. We consider that the two different economy and geographical location, whether the motivating factors vary, and looked into different size, different turnover, different type of companies. Okay. So, form image, and they are all established factors within the motivation, or this motivates the SMEs to adopt environmental practices. Okay. Form image, market opportunities, moral duty, business strategy, satisfying legislation, improved working conditions, operational efficiencies, economic benefit, and pressure from suppliers, pressure from internal pressure. Okay. Employees want that, or the middle management wants, the top management wants to really have environmentally friendly companies. Okay. And external pressure, customers, government, pressure group, okay, NGOs. So, that sort of things we picked up and try to understand that how company reacts to that. Various environmental target, okay, environmental target related to the energy consumptions, okay, GHG emission, then the resource, various utilities, okay, raw material, and that sort of things, and various monitoring method, ISO 14000 as for example, okay, environmental management, formal environmental management system, various audits, okay, internal audit, external audit, if there is legislation, audit by the customers, that sort of things. Okay. So, formal reporting, eco-literacy, and that sort of aspect been really looked at, and again these are all from the literature, and it has been practiced in various companies, and we try to really look into how the Indian and the UK companies are adhering to that. Okay. So, I have a paper which I have produced from that research, which is there in the due course, and you would be able to access it. Okay. And I am not really explaining every findings here, but very interesting finding here you could look at. Greatest motivation for SMEs to consider CSR, corporate social responsibility, comes from moral duty. Okay. Social aspect is coming from the moral duty, and both in the UK and India there is no difference. Okay. Greatest motivation for SMEs to consider the environmental comes from legislation. Okay. So, the other thing that look into the pressure, then I will give a quick comment. Highest pressure for considering the environment comes from government, and the highest pressure for considering CSR comes from customers. Okay. So, what do we reveal from them? That means that if we are working with SMEs in the UK and or India, anywhere we are expected to really get that. Any company we are working, they will have this characteristic. This becomes theory. So, if I am a customer, say I am a Western retailer, I want my company should be, my supplier should be, there should be not any child labor. So, we need to really be very, very sure that there is no child labor. Yes, please.
Sir, these data are primary or secondary?
These are primary data, as I told you. We did that, but we looked into the literature, we developed questionnaire, and if you look at the paper, you would be able to really see this. Okay. So, this is very interesting study. You understand the characteristics of it, but a specific company might be doing well. So, you need to really be aware of and need to really if you are a customers and you want your supplier should be environment and social friendly, you know this is the characteristic, then you impose those contract clause and not even go by their just word or documentation. You might need to really audit that. So, I have discussed with many Western customers while they work with the Indian suppliers. Okay, they say that Indian suppliers commit many things, but they don't adhere to it. So, they need to really be audited properly. Okay, that way UK is much better. I will tell that the comparison in the due course. Okay, so that's the journal paper I am talking about. If you read that, you will get all the methodology and the data analysis, etc. And I am not very sure that whether internet works here. So, I would be able to quickly show you the paper. Let us see whether we can get the internet connection. Say yes. Did you get anywhere? Not sure, but okay. So, let us not waste time here. Let us move on. So, you will get through these URL this paper. Okay, and if you have any problem, I can upload that to your email. Okay. So, overall I have a set of headline findings of the study where we have seen that UK SMEs have more uncertainties in the demand side, okay, and compared to Indian SMEs, and Indian SMEs have more uncertainty in the supply side. Okay, so why is it so? If you look into the customers, SMEs customers in the UK are big OEMs, okay, original equipment manufacturer, retailer and that, but their supply chain is not within the UK only. Okay, it should be very, very competitive. So, they will not spare the UK suppliers to supply that. I have seen many big companies, most of the suppliers are outside the UK, EU, China, India, Southeast Asia, other countries, full of them. Okay. But in comparison, Indian SMEs customers are public sector. 75% of Indian SMEs customers are public sector, and 50% of that is assured. So, Indian SMEs are better off in terms of the demand part of it, but they lack quality, but they lack managing their own business, okay, environment friendly way, and that at least we Indian, we know that. And I will show you a few examples of that as we proceed, and I have visited many companies, okay, and although they think that they are doing very well, but I can really see that they are not. And you would surprise that I have seen SMEs owner, they are originally Indian, in the UK they are really bad. They continue, they carry on Indian culture in the UK, unfortunately. Okay, so I will not go further because it is being recorded. So it happens. We need to improve, to be honest. And being an Indian, I can really criticize ourselves. I would say that we need to improve our supply side substantially in order to be world class, and we deserve to be world class. Okay, we know we are no way different from the Western country. Okay, but we need to really think of our quality in everywhere, every part of our life actually. Okay, so let's move on. SME needs supply chain process maturity, irrespective of whether they are high tech manufacturing company in the UK supply chain or it is in Indian. So, they have a lack of maturity in the process improvement compared to the big companies. Okay, although they have ISO 9000, ISO 14000 and that, but the main reason for which is cash flow. I happen to talk to many high-tech manufacturing company in small and medium-sized enterprises in the UK. They have many CNC machines and that. They say that their business is for say a couple of weeks, 6 weeks. If they do not win another contract, okay, in 6 weeks time, their business gone. Such a less margin cash flow they have. Big amount of loan for their infrastructure. So they do not have any long-term relationship with their customers. So that's the situation. I've seen several companies, and that is why 2000 companies get closed every year. So they go to administration. Okay, they sell the asset and that they survive. Then other will buy and start the business. So that's the way things work. It never happened for the Indian companies. They are better off. That's the thing I would say. Okay, so that is one. Skill shortage is another issue. Okay, I'm not very much aware of the skill shortage within small and medium-sized companies in India. I have worked with many good companies in small and medium-sized companies in India. Good, doing very well. And they do not have much manpower problem, they report it. Okay, but some of them have said that they have issues like good people will leave quickly. But in the UK, this is a problem. I keep asking my final year students that where they like to really work. Okay, nobody said that they like to work in small and medium-sized company. Okay, they like to really work in big companies, IBM, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Jaguar Land Rover, okay, JCB, this type of big companies, not in smaller company. Okay, Brinton Carpet example I've given is a good company, so they have good employment record on that. But skill shortage is a very prominent problem in the small and medium-sized enterprises. Okay, employee turnover is also high in SMEs. So you train people, okay, and they leave. So you need to really again develop them, and that sort of things are really important. Political issues in SMEs in both the countries, but in a different way. We are not discussing the political issue because this will take full day. So let's move on. Any quick question on we'll move into another research that we have undertaken here, okay, on the same topic. Okay, so now we can look into the performance measurement framework. Could we, the question is, overarching question is, could we develop a framework through which we can really undertake diagnostics, okay, how the company is doing. So what do we need? So like medical doctor, they do the diagnostics of any patient and try to really find out what happened, although there would be some symptom. Same thing, you see the symptoms within the companies, but you must have academics, consultant, and or the managers must have a tool to really understand what's going on. So that's the thing we are talking about. The first thing you need to really do in order to really get there, you need to map the supply chain, closed loop supply chain. So this is the example of the closed supply chain from the product perspective. Okay, so you have a product, okay, say clothes which we are wearing, and after it gives up its life, what do? We throw it to the bin. So we should not do that. It should really go to, sometimes it happens in the UK, I have seen in the retail, they keep a big box. Your unused clothes, you leave it there, and you have different type of clothes, shoes, you can leave it in a specific place. So they will then recycle it. So it could be really even converted to the new fabric, and new fabric to the new garments, and again it goes to the productive cycle. Okay, that should be zero waste. Okay, there should not be waste, regenerative, circular economy, that sort of thing. So in order to really develop a sustainable supply chain performance measurement, first of all you need to really consider the closed loop. If you don't consider the closed loop, you miss something very vital point: waste recycling, reuse, repair, and all sort of concept. In the Western country, the concept of repair is almost not there. That way, we are much better developing emerging economy. Okay, because we have always different tier customers. Okay, so after use of particular appliances, it may go to the somebody else, but in Western country it never happens. It is being recycled, it's not been reused, and repair concept has almost gone, but it is returning. Surprisingly, it is returning. So there should be some mechanism which we call after sale services. How could you really extend the life of the product? Okay, and you need to really think of in the design stage itself. So there is a paradigm shift in manufacturing, that while you develop a product, you need to really extend the life. And even today, you could really sell your product by saying that it has an extended life, okay, without any extra cost, without any higher consumption of the resources, that sort of thing. So try to really visualize a conceptual framework for the small and medium sized enterprises performance measurement. And we talked about at the beginning, our course is talking about the system. So I thought a bit of system understanding would be good for you. Okay, so try to really visualize small and medium sized companies, manufacturing company, any type of. Okay, and what would be the input? It should have infrastructure. Okay, it should have all the resources. Okay, in terms of the material, in terms of the human resource, and that. And I am aware that this slide is not there with you, but I will make sure that you get the updated presentation. So you need not to really copy much, just try to really understand the concept, make few notes, okay, but all the slides would be available to you. So all the resources as input, okay, and then you have processes through which you convert those resources to the product, okay, services or anything value added thing, and you would be generating the waste also, and then how do you really handle the waste. So as an output in a performance measurement framework, we kept these three parameters: economic, environmental, and social part of it. And within the economic bit, we looked into definitely the production throughput, okay, productivity, how much labor you are producing, how much product you are getting out of it. So that should be the main parameter. We can keep some sort of other things like inventory, you keep it, capacity you utilize, all the objective things which you could measure, keep that, okay, and try to really measure it. You will see that on your left side, what your input and the processes might be difficult to objectively measure. Some of the things you could really do that: how much money you have spent in infrastructure, how many people you are deploying, how much money you are spending in buying the energy part of it. Okay, so that could be okay. You could really measure it. So if you are not able to objectively measure that, you can really have the opinion poll from the people, those who are working. That will give you a sort of parameter, okay, to measure. Okay, so various type of subconstruct, okay, you can call it proxies also. You need to really get out of it. Okay, in the economic, further continuing it, like turnover, cost, profit, okay, different financial ratios you could really consider. Okay, business growth also, how much percentage business growth you have received. Okay, it doesn't it might be for a particular business, business growth is one of the parameter through which you understand that how much economically that company has grown. Okay, but maybe a steady growth or keeping it same could be another parameter. You like to really keep it same. Okay, that's the thing you wanted, then it's fine, it's up to you. So there is no standard through which you should be able to measure it. It could be standardized in a specific industry consortium, okay, or specific sector and specific zone, specific country, it depends. Okay, but there is no theory that exactly you have to measure it, and it could be government legislation, they say that okay, you give us this figure, okay, we would be measuring your performance through that. Okay, and in many countries, sustainable development goal has been set, and that could really be made a standardized parameter, but there is none as of now. And small and medium sized enterprises, it doesn't exist. So we need to really bring that so that we can really help SMEs to achieve those. So you can well see in environmental performance, we have CO2 emissions. Okay, we need to really convert all our emission to the CO2 equivalent. Okay, energy as for example, waste as for example, resources for example. So you could really convert everything to the CO2 emission, and there are norms to really do that, keeping the productivity also as one of the criteria. In the social part of it, I have written few: equality, job creation, skill shortage, and well-being, health and safety issues, employee turnover. So job creation has been given highly emphasized in the UK. Okay, company must create newer job, so that would be considered as a very strong performance. Okay, so it helps society as a whole. If there is no job creation, then society goes. Your population is increasing. How do you really employ the people? So you need to really have a productive workforce in one way, but they should really be productive by producing, helping to produce in a manufacturing and service sector. And there are few list of enablers, philosophies, models, method, tools and technologies. Okay, so some of you are working with ERP, industry 4.0. Who is working in industry 4.0? You are. Yes, I remember that. Okay, blockchain, IoT, okay, Internet of Things, that could enable you to achieve sustainability. So if we look at from the UK experience, very few small and medium sized enterprise have ERP industry 4.0. Mainly they use cloud in a very informal way. They have finance and HR, they are managing through that. There is no connection with production, most of the SMEs. So there is a huge scope of technology contributing to small and medium sized enterprise sustainability. Okay, and this will help them to achieve their business growth. Okay, fundamental turnover and the profit enhancement, which they are looking for. So small and medium sized enterprises needs hand holding from their customers, government, as well as consultant like us, academics, so as to improve their sustainability, giving emphasis on the economic performance. So there are measures we could really adopt in order to really help them on environmental, social and the economic part equally in a right optimum way. Okay. So in terms of the standard ISO 9000, ISO 40000, SA 8000, okay, the other various standard that are available, they could adopt that easily. So that's the first level of maturity. Okay, where are they? If they do not have certification, let them do it. So as I told you, SME has a lack of maturity in the processes, so the process maturity will improve. And what happened that by default all the standards is being implemented by them. So the consultant will facilitate that, but they would be engaged on it. So while they introspect the process, they try to really improve it. That's the way it works. Okay. So diagnostics, a bit of sophisticated diagnostic like carbon footprint measures, sustainable performance measurement, competitiveness analysis, where I will explain a bit on that. So say another 15 minutes. Okay. So then we will have break. Then philosophy like total quality management, total proactive maintenance, lean approach, Six Sigma approach, Lean Sigma approach, newer method that are coming up from the academia, adopting it quickly will help. So philosophical change. There is not much investment on it. So in the UK, I've seen companies are very proactive. They are interested to and they listen and they are interested to adopt that as well. They are quite interested. And in India, It is also really very, very positive. I would be finishing here on Friday, and I will meet 20 SMEs representative on Monday in Calcutta, whom we have already worked to improve their environmental performance. I will review that what have they really done. I will give them a bit of hands-on exercise on how to calculate carbon footprint, okay, which we are doing it. The pamphlet I have circulated to you, forwarded to you. So we would be helping them to really do that. I think academics must do this type of activities. We must be able to really reach to our customers. Okay, they are really our customers. Okay, so whatever knowledge we develop, unless we take it to them, then I think that not only writing paper is one level of dissemination, and the next level of dissemination is go to the real people who would be using your ideas. So I really appreciate your approach that you have taken up startup business and using your own engineering understanding, technological understanding. Add to that your business understanding also, okay, business management. Work with some faculty member from your institute, so that will really help, and try to really disseminate your understanding in terms of paper, definitely to the academic world, but in terms of the different communication, okay, to the society, to the smaller companies, to startup. What is your learning? So you would be able to better communicate than anybody else, because you have seen both the world, research, industry, then and you have produced something. So you have take all the three boxes. So you are the best person to communicate. So don't keep within you, disseminate. That helps. Okay, let's move on. Another model. I would be a bit fast here to show some of the models, and while you would be doing the exercise after the break, you will be able to utilize those, and there are many available on the academic literature. Okay, so what we have done, as we know, for performance measurement, it says that if we do not measure, we cannot really improve, and if we measure everything, it is equally bad actually. Okay, so we need to really find out what needs to really measure. Okay, we should not measure everything. So that is why the performance measurement framework vary from company to company, vary from country to country. So the whole idea of identifying the performance criteria, although it looks like very easy, okay, it's not there is no mathematics. Okay, it looks like very simple, but it's the most daunting task. If your factors are wrong, then whatever sophisticated method you use, this should be of no use. So you need to really get the right factors identified. Okay, so involvement of the real people, brainstorming with them, understanding issues and challenges, and deriving the critical success factors. Okay, a very important part of it. Like if you think of your childhood, your strategy to come up to this, you have a good academic journey. You are in IIT Kharagpur. We are all in a much better place than many people. So what was our critical success factor? There are few. You can reflect back. So same thing, critical success factor. Understanding critical success factor is very important. Okay, then you can work for it, right? Critical success factor. Here's another philosophy we have looked at. We have taken only input and output. Okay, input as a practice, output as a performance, and then there are constructs on that. We applied a technique called data envelopment analysis. I think Professor Mahanty would be explaining that method in the due course. Okay, so we applied that, and there is a paper also which I will refer. You could really measure performance by input and output. Okay, processes have been considered as a input here, but in a previous model you have a system, input, process, output, and we try to really measure everything there. But here we are doing the input and output, and very objectively we develop a frontier. There would be efficient companies and inefficient company, and this data envelopment analysis will tell that inefficient company with whom they would be benchmarking and what they would be benchmarking very objectively. Okay. So, all the method will have some pros and cons. So, then you need to apply the human mind there. No model will help will make the decision, will facilitate you to make the decision, but then you have to apply the human brain. Well, we say that we have sophisticated computer today, but still could we really plus all the human brain? Answer is no. We talk about machine learning, we talk about artificial intelligence, but still we need the technical person, we need still doctor, although artificial intelligence will tell that what we need to really have, but still there are so many variables that we need to, still we need engineers, okay, to build a bridge, okay, infrastructure, we still need engineer to develop a CNC machine. Okay. So, that is a framework through which also we could analyze it. I am not explaining all the construct, subconstruct, but it is mainly we need to decide what is input, what is output. You can take the three bottom line, economic, environment and social, practices and performance, then subconstruct proxies and you get there. Okay. Another interesting model, balance scorecard. You have heard of it in financial part of it. You can have in the sustainability performance measurement, and that is also one of my contributions. And again, I have a paper for these which I have referred in the at the back. So, you can well see you need to really have organizational commitment, okay, in order to have a better eco design, okay. And then you have a green supply chain process, which is a process design, okay. And if we have organizational commitment, eco design in our system and the green supply chain processes in place, we have we can really adopt better social practices by engaging with the people, okay. So, that will lead to sustainable performance. So, considering this, you can well see this is related to innovation and learning, internal part of it, customer and the finance, okay. All the social things are related to the customers, your suppliers, your own employees and everybody is and including your original customers, everybody is customer. Okay. So, various subconstruct and organized in a very hierarchical way, okay, and in a complex hierarchy, and you can apply method like fuzzy, analytic hierarchy process, analytic network process and combination of the tool, okay. Sometimes quality function deployment could be really also taken into consideration by engaging the stakeholders, okay, stakeholders requirement, and you can have the importance of those criteria and then measure specific companies performance against those criteria which are in the bottom level, and you can develop an index and you can do the benchmarking. Does it make sense, or you need a bit more clarity on it, how it works? Okay. Any quick reaction? Okay. Do you need more explanation on this? Again, I have a paper reference to that. Okay. So, quickly, as you are not nodding your head, I thought that I need a bit of couple of minutes explanation. Okay. So, organizational commitment are related to the commitment from the different level of the people within the organization, top management, mid level management, frontline people, everybody should be committed. If there is a lack of commitment, things will not work, and think of commitment is your left side and this will drive everything forward. So, if you are doing everything that your people are not committed, things will not happen. Make sense? Okay. So, eco design is connected to all the regenerative, taking the regenerative resources for your production system, okay. All sort of materials that are biodegradable, and these, so your waste will be really taken care and that sort of thing, okay. So, green supply chain processes are related to green purchasing, green marketing, and your investment recovery should be really very fast. I have seen companies that have quite a few old equipment, machineries is not being used, but they have kept it. They should dispose it. If it is a throwaway price, sometimes in the UK you have to really pay for disposing it, but do it, no point of keeping it, it is occupying some space. I have seen in the UK that they buy inventory, okay, raw material inventory on the basis of scale of economy, but they have a tiny order. They think that the same order will come in the due course and they would be using that raw material, and you know, it will never come, and that inventory remains. It happens in the UK, it happens in India, it happens with many small and medium sized enterprises. So, this is also a very much, you know, factor that we need to. So, you can well see how the factors are coming up from issues and challenges by seeing it, keeping your eyes open. Okay, again, these have been really looked into various literature and collated, okay, and various environmental practices within the supply chain, social practices, you know, which we have seen earlier, well-being, CSR, health and safety, job creations and other things, and the performance measurement which we have looked at. So, that is the thing, this is the further level of this, and the further level of the sustainable performance. So, as I told you that the technique like fuzzy, analytic hierarchy process, all sort of things could be used, and there are 2 papers. I am not very sure that whether we can get the link. So, these are the 2 papers. Again, you know, it is not there in your slide. I will you know, send a newer version to you, you could look at. So, quickly moving into another thing. Sorry for holding you. Is it okay? 10 minutes more, yeah, so that we can conclude it all together. Okay, move for a break and then come back. Okay. So, carbon footprint is a quite common term to all of us today, and carbon footprint is a measurable you know, factor within our human endeavor. So, there is a you know, per capita CO2 emission record, you know, per capita related to the countries across the world. If you Google it, you will find it. Okay. So, there is a 1960 figures, if I remember clearly, and another is 2014 figures. If you look at carbon footprint, per capita carbon footprint, you know, country wise, could you guess what is India's per capita CO2 emission as per 2014 standard? Any guess? What would be per capita CO2 emission? Okay, that means average per capita CO2. How much? Because our human endeavor will consume CO2, will discharge CO2. Okay, we use energy for our day to day activities. So, it is 1.9. Okay, used to be in 90s, in 1960 figure used to be 0.3. Okay, it has increased like anything. And UK currently it is, yeah, how much? Currently, say 2014 figure, it is around 7. Okay, it was in 90s, it was in 19, it was much more than that. It has reduced. Okay, per capita is divided by the population. You have to really look at that. Although, you know, total CO2 emission, we are much higher than many countries. We are among the top, isn't it? So, it says that a UK household has around 10 CO2, 10 metric ton CO2 emission. Okay, US just double. Okay, UK is 20, and currently UK is US is 20, and currently 2014 figure as per Google, it is 16 and used to be 17 in 1960 figure. So, you can well see that that is the thing, it is measurable and that. So, what we do for small and medium sized companies, we need to really measure the CO2. Okay, how do we do that? 3 aspects mainly. Okay, energy consumption, waste and resource, and that could be really converted to objectively what is the CO2 emission of a particular SMEs, and it varies. I will give you I will show you the list of the companies and that. So, you try to really understand that where the company is in terms of the CO2 and set a target. Through our project, we are trying to reduce 7 ton, at least 7 ton CO2 emission, reduce 7 ton, and then you need to find out what you would be doing in order to really bridge that gap and get the business model, and that is the performance measurement and improvement using the CO2 emission target. Okay. So, what happen if you look into the supply chain, you have a supplier, you have a manufacturer, and you have customers. So, there are energy consumption or CO2 emission, CO2 equivalent in supplier side, customer side, internal operation side, and in the logistics bit of it. And everybody is handling the waste, recycling or throwing it to landfill and that, and it creates CO2. Okay. So, it is very objective. So, we can, if we can model that for any company, we can really do that. It is not rocket science, we could really model that. So, that is the thing we are talking about, and that is the project which the leaflet is with you. Okay, makes sense? Okay. So, if we look into in a bit different way, practices and performance should be very objective, practice should be by a qualitative understanding. We can have a more consolidated model like this, and I am talking about statistical modeling. So, we want to really find out for a group of company which factor we need to prioritize in order to improve their environmental performance. So, we can model it mathematically by taking into consideration of all these factors. So, you have resources, you have infrastructure, okay, you have business process in place, and you are getting productivity related objective parameter, inventory, capacity, energy consumptions and all sort of things, okay. And you get performance like throughput in the economic part of it, carbon footprint in the environmental part of it, and various social performance like job creation. So, that could be very objective output, and you get a business performance, how much turnover, business turnover or business growth happening. Okay. So, you can develop a model, and by studies, data collection, you can do the primary research and find out. So, we looked into through our research that how lean and innovation could affect the sustainability performance of the companies. We have done loads of primary research in a specific group of companies, specific geographical locations on that, and I have included few papers on that. That will give you a very good understanding that how research happens. And there are many research question I could share with you that you must look at, but perhaps by now I have explained quite a bit. That could be a very good strong research question within the sustainability of small and medium sized enterprises. Okay. So, last but not the least, the leaflet that I have given to you. This is European Regional Development funded project, okay, altogether 3 million, and 2 local enterprise partnership area project, where we are helping around 50 companies, small and medium sized companies. So, what we do, we derive carbon footprint of those company, okay, product wise, process wise, as well as their total company wide and the supply chain wise, and try to find out the means for improvement, and together we try to identify few improvement projects, and we give 50% of funding from the fund that we have received from European Regional Development, okay, and they implement it, and our target is to reduce carbon footprint around 7 ton for each company. So, around 400 metric ton altogether in a particular area, which is equivalent to around 2,500 planting 2,500 trees. Okay. So, that is the perspective, and as I told that 10 metric ton is equivalent to 1 UK household annual CO2 consumption. Make sense? Okay. So, it actually huge contribution. It is a very huge contribution to the society in terms of CO2 reduction. and we help the companies by giving free consulting, and we develop long term relationship with those companies. Okay. So, that is the project, and in terms of the improvement measures, what have they really done, like efficient air compressor, high efficiency telematic system, okay, through which they could really measure that how much fuel they are consuming, and accordingly they can optimize their route and all in the distribution side of it. Okay. Monitoring technique, voltage optimizer, heating and lighting control, okay, changing all the bulb to LED. You can well see that there are loads of LEDs. Okay. And even changing the behavior of the workman. Okay, sometimes you keep the machine on, you go out of that, and you think that the setup time would be much higher, and that replacing the machine is one of the things, and changing the boiler from gas or the electricity fired to the biomass, that renewable energy adoptions as well. Okay. You can well see that different companies we are working with, what are the different carbon footprint baseline. Okay. So, it varies depending on that, and the energy spent thing. So, if we could reduce 7 or 10 ton per company, it is a huge saving. So, that drives the company to really go for that project, but energy has a sort of knock on impact on the other part of it. With the reduction of the energy efficiency, resource efficiency, and the waste reduction, the company get transformed, their process get improved, and which has a positive impact on other part of it. We try to really sell our project through that. Okay. So, I am not explaining this model, there is another model through which you could really measure the performance, again looking into one side demand, internal operation and supply, and economic, operational, environmental and social part of it, and there is another model where we look into the competitiveness of the small and medium sized enterprises by looking into their leadership agility, their innovation ability, their quality approaches, okay, alongside sustainable supply chain. So, it is more holistic model, and we have helped more than 100 companies in the East Midland, okay, in the transport supply chain, and we did diagnostics, and we one to one we supported them what they need to really do. Sometimes they come out with a problem that they have leadership problem, but we discover their problem in the supply chain. Some company says that they have a quality issue, we come out that they have a leadership issue. So, is a symptom, and the root causes are sometimes many cases it is different. So, analytical tool helps you to get there. You can see the varieties of the tool. Even I work over say last 5-6 years with different type of tools within UK and India and the other countries. Okay. So, there are loads of similar type of tools available in the literature. So, what I would suggest to you, these are the list of the company in the UK we worked, these are the list of the company in India, but there is a long list of it, but that is the thing I could really capture within this slide. After we come back, we would be get into the, first of all, thank you very much for giving attention, and it is more than 15 past 11, so which is a bit more than what we are scheduled for. Thank you very much for that. What we will do, we will take a break now, and then after we come back, we will go through that. Some of the part we have already undertaken, not in a structured way, but we will do it now. Okay. So, understanding supply chain, then getting into the strategic fit, okay, competitive strategy and supply chain strategy, and then criteria for performance measurement, the model, okay, and analyzing our supply chain using that model and suggest improvement measures. So, that would be more or less our work, that we would be making a presentation at the end. Okay. So, we would be learning few things like circular economy. If we look the problem from a circular economy perspective, how do we really model it? And then we would be looking into waste management as a whole, not only for the small and medium sized company, but what is really happening in India in relation to the waste management. How could we really improve it? Okay, is there any way forward? What is your understanding of it, and where you could really contribute? At the end, what I discussed with professors, Professor Mahanty and Professor Ray, because you are a researchers, it's not really compulsory. It would be a bit of voluntary to all of you, that we would expect that you will, from this module, from this course, you will identify your own research, okay, with the objective of developing a research paper in the due course, and we would be facilitating you. Okay, we would strongly encourage to identify a research question and undertake research in the due course, and over the period we will set out all the targets, and over the period we would be facilitating you, and we will see that you can produce a academic paper out of it. Does it make any sense? Yeah. So that sort of target we will be keeping it. You can ask us any question, and we would be in touch via email so that we could work with you. Okay. So thank you very much once again, and let's take a break for 15-20 minutes and come back and still continue till 1 o'clock, isn't it? Yeah. Any question before we quit? So any quick question? Yeah. Yeah.
So go back to the slide sustainability performance measurement.
Yeah, there are several. Which one you like to
Okay.
pick up?
When we calculate the performance measure, social, economic, or operational, okay.
Yeah.
So performance measurement all are the interconnected, okay. So just by seeing their values, how would we identify that which parameter is more affecting our system, supplies and
Okay.
further analysis?
Okay. Good question. Do you know factor analysis, structure equation modeling? These are all the statistical model through which you could develop this thing, and you can ask question to the expert, and from that you develop a regression model. So that's the mathematical bit of it. I will explain that while we through one of my papers. We do not have much scope to explain in detail during my formal presentation, unfortunately, but I will show through one of the papers, okay, how the structure equation modeling work, and how we develop a questionnaire, and how we develop hypotheses and test those hypotheses. Okay, it's a very good question. And what is the mathematics behind it? Is a statistical approach through which we look at. Okay, so thank you. So.